coming to you right here from Sandton, where the president is engaging with the various heads of states together with other governments. Oliver, like you already alluded to, all the events around or surrounding the main event tomorrow are done away. The final one for the president is to interact with African leaders. You know, in his speech, he's already said that, Oliver, this is a great moment for Africa, saying that South Africa is the only African country in the G20 and it's excited to hold such an event, and it saw it fit to bring those African leaders ahead of tomorrow to just have an engagement before the long day, describing tomorrow as a long day, saying that it's very important for African leaders to drive a framework, a perspective in terms of, you know, their contribution in tomorrow's meeting with other leaders, saying that this is the time for Africa and it should not go to waste. Oliver.
This part from the president's engagement and address this evening, which I think centers a big part of the African problem in this conversation. He says, we must be deeply concerned about ongoing conflict in our continent. These are deadly conflicts taking devastating human toll. They are impeding Africa's development trajectory and jeopardizing our collective future. By prioritizing peace initiatives alongside economic development, we aim to foster sustainable growth and development. And of course, there are many wars on the continent. Ongoing conflict between Rwanda and the DRC is still ongoing. In fact, between the M23 and the DRC is still ongoing. There, of course, Rwanda being framed by the DRC in that conversation as a proxy. The ongoing conflict in Sudan and the ongoing civil war in Sudan is one of the big focuses of the security crisis on the continent as well. President Donald Trump had engaged with MSB of Saudi Arabia just days ago on exactly the question of Sudan. We know that Mohammed Al Sabin is actually in South Africa representing Saudi Arabia here at the G20. To what extent did that message find engagement in the room, and what was the tonality around it?
When he was giving his views, when he opened the engagement there before we left the room, remember that it's a closed session, he did exactly allude to that, calling for African countries to seize the opportunity in working together, mentioning those conflicts, mentioning all the challenges that the continent is facing, saying that, I think I heard him while he was walking in before he took a seat, saying that this Africa was a great continent. It was prudent for it to just have that perspective under one roof, whereby they will just go forward tomorrow in those sessions and present, that framework, like I already alluded to, based on what they would have discussed in this working dinner. Not taking nothing for chance in terms of leaving that, voice of African countries in terms of opining or having a voice at this event of the G20, the first of its kind in the African continent. And like I already said to you, Oliver, that the president did mention that it was very important for this event to come here. He also raised the issue that South Africa being, the only African country in the G20, it came at the right time, and they were proud as, a country to host such an event and also allow the voices of other African leaders and states in tomorrow's event when those heads of state meet. Oliver.
Tomorrow, session 1 will focus on inclusive and sustainable economic growth, very specifically on the debt burden and financing for development. In fact, there will be a presentation tomorrow in session 1, the Africa Expert Panel presentation and report, which was handed over to President Ramaphosa, will be presented tomorrow. Tonight's engagement, how important was it in setting the tone for that Africa Expert Panel, and to what extent did President Ramaphosa speak to it this evening?
It's very important, very key when that time comes, when the President of the Republic meets those leaders to give that perspective of African states, like you already mentioned, to those challenges. Where is Africa in the global context? what can be done, what do African leaders think should be done, and where is the space. That's probably one of those things that Oliver are going to be, outlined in terms of those presentations going forward. But this meeting is very critical. You can even see the time that, they are holding it. The last meeting, the last engagement of the president before the day. That means he takes it very serious to have those discussions with government officials, delegates, and other heads of states in the African continent, Oliver.
Ntanda, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Ntanda Katlane coming to us live from Sandton in the north of Johannesburg, where President Ramaphosa this evening engaged with African heads of state.